And I think it's very valuable to be able to access those different aspects, because we all are like multiple computers that are sort of networked together, you know?
No, I don't. Could you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. You know, I think that the brain used to be conceptualized as a single entity. But just what we've been saying on these occasions under stress, we can, if we think about it, identify different parts of ourselves, and we can have a conversation. You don't have to be a multiple personality. I mean, you can be if you want, but you don't have to be. In order to recognize different subunits that are almost like a trio or a quartet playing chamber music, where the different instruments are coming in and they're kind of conversing with each other, or they're making music with each other, and hopefully it's harmony. And that is, I think...
Well, if it's not harmony, that's when people come to you, right?
That's right.
I mean, if we really just want to plow this metaphor into the dirt. But go ahead.
In other words, it's lucky that if everybody was so harmonious, I'd be out of a job, wouldn't I?
Right. But I interrupted you.
No, that's it, you know. So now I think that we understand computers, and that we understand that sometimes you can gain tremendous power by networking together different computers. We have an understanding that in a way that's kind of how the brain can be conceptualized, as different subunits that communicate with each other. One that's an alarm bell, one that's a sort of cautionary part of the brain. And we actually have identified subunits of the brain that subserve these basic functions: a reward center, a punishment center.
I'm thinking, you know, part of me, I'm sort of torn, ironically, because part of me wants to go down the path of understanding scientifically what it is that these different regions of the brain do and function, and why that's the case. And another part of me wants to sort of examine, within the context of a creative person's life, how it is that these different areas affect their process, or work against your objectives. You know, there's a lot of life coaching going on there, which try to empower artists to take responsibility for themselves, or to be more successful somehow. There's a lot of spirituality or spiritualism. What would be the correct way? Spirituality surrounding the premise of self, particularly in the arts. So that's sort of why I'm kind of torn, and I'm hedging which direction to go in. I'm sharing it with you, both to cover up for my silence while I think about this, but also to sort of include you in my thinking, and what would be a most interesting tack to take.
Well, I think the second tack is more interesting. I'll tell you why. Because firstly, the different functions that the brain has, or the psyche has, the mind, they aren't actually localized here and there and there. They're complex networks and circuits that are involved. So an idea of finding exactly where do we feel fear, where do we feel pain, where do we feel happiness, is probably not going to be all that profitable, because I'm not sure what you can actually do with it. But if you say, okay, here we are in some kind of predicament, here we are in some kind of adversity, maybe it's not even adversity. In one of the chapters in my book, I talk about the quest for excellence, because I think people who are trying to achieve at very high levels make life difficult for themselves. I remember, you know, my wife saying to me, why do you have to write another book? Why do you have to make life difficult for yourself? And the fact is that sometimes if you really want to push yourself to your limits, if you want to self-actualize, you want to be the very, very best you can be, then you're not going to be content with just being comfortable, just being business as usual. You want to kind of set your goals high, and you want to have challenges in your life. And challenges, by definition, are going to make life difficult. So if you're an actor and you want to play on Broadway, or you want to go to Hollywood, or you want to win an Oscar, or you want to do a great role, or have a fantastic movie, these are all very, very difficult tasks, but part of the difficulty is what makes them so exciting. So that's really part of the gift of adversity, because by making adversity for yourself, by setting your goals high, you're actually giving yourself a gift.
Actualizing is the word you use, right?
Yes.
Actualizing. Now, I know that in your coaching practice, which is separate from your therapy practice, right? Or is it one and the same thing?
No, I kind of see them as somewhat different.
You see, right. Okay, so I wanted to create that distinction that you also coach, and I know that you coach professional athletes. You also coach professional actors and artists of all stripes. How is it that what sort of adversity do you see come up most? Is there a recurring theme? Performance anxiety, for example, fear of success, can we actually define that? Can we define what that is? Can we define fear of success?
Well, let me answer some of your questions one at a time. Firstly, what is it that's happening in coaching? I think the only difference between coaching and therapy is that when you're coaching, you're trying to help somebody be the absolute best that they can. And there's something getting in the way of them doing their absolute best. And maybe one thing is that it's very hard for one individual to see all the angles. Maybe we need a team of people to help us see the best path to go along and how best to navigate it. And obstacles will come up, especially for people who are setting very high bars for themselves.
Isn't that relative?
Well, it is, but for the individual in question, the obstacle is the obstacle.
Right.
If your obstacle is that, you want to win an Academy Award, I say that's kind of a legitimate goal. What do you need to do to get there? How do you remove all the things that are in the way between you and your goal? Or just to do the best you can, to do a brilliant part. It doesn't have to be award-winning, but it has to be something that moves people, or people say, wow, I don't know how he pulled that off or how she did that. So I think with coaching, you really want to help people just be the best they can be. The psychologist Abraham Maslow is the person who defined self-actualization. He is famous for his pyramid, which he called the hierarchy of needs. And at the bottom of the pyramid are the most basic needs: food, comfort, love, etc., etc. And right at the apex of the pyramid is self-actualization. Because he said, the artist must paint, the writer must write, the actor must act. Whatever it is that we have a gift for, we need to do. And that is self-actualization.